A few weeks ago I went to Disneyland for the first time since 2008. In all honesty, I was worried. Being half a world away, almost all of the news you hear out of Disney, and especially the Disney parks, is bad news, and I braced myself for the possible reality that the place I once idolized had become just another cash grab for a greedy corporation. But I was wrong.
Walking through the gates and under the train station as the sweet tunes of Main Street USA hit our ears, all negativity we felt towards Disney floated away. While things may not have been perfect, perhaps we were too harsh on Disney in some ways, but maybe not in others.
So for review time, I'm Dom.
I'm Luke, and we owe Disney an apology. Kind of.
Disneyland still has one, if not the world's greatest selection of theme park attractions. Whilst there were a few years in there where Disneyland Park didn't seem to get any huge e-ticket expansion, that has changed in recent years with them receiving Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, which arguably contains the world's best theme park attraction, Rise of the Resistance. But Disneyland is more about the classics than the new hotness, and contains all of Walt's favourites, including Pirates of the Caribbean, the Tiki Room, and some of the second generation of Imagineer's best creations such as Big Thunder Mountain and Star Tours. What would be spread among multiple parks at any other resort exists just at Disneyland. And in saying that, the Disneyland Resort still has the benefit of multiple parks. Disney's California Adventure is a perfect second gate for the resort, even though it did take several years or maybe an entire decade to really find its feet. Being just a couple of steps away from Disneyland means that you don't spend any time traveling between parks, which massively increases the value of park hopping compared to places like Walt Disney World, where it can take up to an hour to get from one park to another. Whilst I didn't spend a huge amount of time here, I did enjoy my time in DCA, except for Avengers Campus, which just sits in an odd place. It feels like they didn't learn anything from Galaxy's Edge and kind of went backwards.
It's a blessing that the current management can't control history, because it's one of the best parts of Disneyland. Everything in the park has a story associated with it. It's the only Disney park that Walt ever stepped foot into, and you can feel that when walking around the park, without having an unexplainable extra layer of magic that can't quite be described, only felt.
Both Luke and I have so many fond family memories here, and our individual trips back in 2008 were the start of what led us to found ReviewTyme. I was fascinated with not just the attractions and shows, but the logistics and creativity that makes a place like Disneyland a reality. I spent years browsing websites like hiddenmickeys.com, which I recently found out had closed, but you can still find it on Wayback Machine if you want a wave of nostalgia if this was your thing back in the day, and learning as much as I could about the parks. That journey ultimately led me here, and those websites reserve a special place in my heart.
Speaking of reserving spaces in places, let me preface this next point by saying straight up, I hate the reservation system, but it seems to work. We were there the weekend before the 4th of July and crowds were busy but bearable, with the wait times for major rides such as Rise of the Resistance and Hyperspace Mountain not going above 70 minutes. This is similar to my trip to the park on New Year's Eve last year, where even once hopping was allowed, the park never hit capacity. And on that day I was able to ride over 20 attractions, see the day parade, and enjoy fireworks not once, but twice.
Now the resort is expensive, there are no two ways about it, but the Disneyland Resort offers a lot more to do than pretty much any theme park in the world. When you compare the Magic Kingdom and Disneyland Park, they have a similar price point, but Disneyland contains almost double the attractions of its younger brother. Combine this with the fact that DCA is just a walk away, and the value of this resort is beyond basically every other Disney theme park out there. Though in saying that, you need to be careful when it comes to entertainment. The reason being that unlike some other Disney theme parks, They don't offer their entertainment every night of the week during the quieter parts of the year, and I think this has to do with the fact that Disneyland basically sits back to back with a residential district. I also need to hold myself accountable here, because we made a video ragging on Galaxy's Edge for not having enough to do, while simultaneously prioritizing paid upcharges such as Savvy's Workshop, where you can create your own lightsaber. I won't lie, I paid for this, and I loved every moment of it. It was expensive, there's no doubt about that, considering it was 330 Australian dollars, but it's more than just a souvenir. It was an experience, and it tapped into my nostalgic love for Star Wars. Every kid who has watched Star Wars has wanted a lightsaber, and I got mine. But I also hate the fact that so many people will miss out on this because the price is so high, and it's already seen a price rise since opening. By the way, if you're enjoying this video and all of the other content that we do, consider signing up to our Patreon. We're giving away signed postcards from the both of us until the end of July, and we've got new exclusive content on the way that we're really excited about.
Now, people regularly complain about theme park food. It's become somewhat of a meme at this point. But Disneyland is cheaper than most of the other regional parks we visited whilst in the US, and is a far better quality for the price. We just spent the last 2 weeks traveling to 14 different theme parks around the US, and Disneyland's food is Michelin starred compared to other theme parks in America. We had days at Disney where there was so much food we wanted to try that we didn't eat a single meal, instead making up our day of deliciousness with countless snacks. Treats that lined our tongue and we highly recommend include the Cookie Num Num, Lobster Mac and Cheese, Mickey Beignets, Ronto wraps of both the breakfast and regular varieties, but much to Dom's dismay, there were no giant pickles devoured.
Unlike a giant pickle, not everything was sunshine and roses, and some of our worries about the Disney company were rearing their ugly heads, in ways that suggest things in the future are going to get a lot worse. I'll be blunt here, staff seem defeated, and I don't blame them. Disney has consistently allowed in more guests, but continues to foster an environment that does not encourage workers to join or stick around. They are underpaid, understaffed, and underappreciated. And with the upcoming changes to their sick leave and call-out process, this could get even worse. I get it. By going, I am part of this problem. But it's not just the crowds, but how Disney communicates with them. It is not the frontline cast members' responsibility, who have other duties to fulfill, to explain how Disneyland works. It is up to the company to educate guests beforehand or create systems that are intuitive. You can tell that they're really trying to push mobile ordering because it elevates the pressure on food service employees, but they aren't communicating this, and the app that they provide is woefully inadequate. Disney is attempting to double dip by saving money on their software production, communication, and cast members, but it's creating a poor guest experience and low staff morale.
Speaking of software, Genie Plus, including Lightning Lane, was a decent purchase. Now, put away the pitchforks and let me explain. As international travelers who only visit for a couple of days, it made sense to get it for 2 of our days in the parks to do all the big ticket attractions, and then do a day without Genie Plus to do all the smaller offerings that make Disneyland so unique. But the only reason it worked for us was that we knew exactly how to utilize the system, a system that is way more confusing than it needs to be. At times when we went to book another Lightning Lane, the system would instead tell us to buy it for the day again. Also, there's no easy way to just see the Lightning Lane attractions, and instead you end up scrolling through the tip board to find the rides that have it. And at a park like Disneyland, there are more rides that don't than those that do, meaning you spend countless times scrolling and looking at your phone instead of living in the moment. Finally, the system doesn't know what rides you've already used it on, so it will let you get to the final stage of booking a Lightning Lane before telling you that you're ineligible. Even though we do recommend a day or 2 of Genie Plus if you're a first-time or rare visitor, especially as it includes all of your photos, we would highly suggest avoiding the individual Lightning Lanes that can cost up to $20 per person for one single ride. Watch wait times on rides like Rise of the Resistance and use the single rider queue on Radiator Springs Races for much more affordable ways to ensure you do these attractions.
Keep in mind as well that most of what we are saying is about Disneyland and doesn't refer to Walt Disney World. Though what we are hearing out of Walt Disney World is not sounding particularly great. Luke has the opportunity to visit this resort later in the year, and I'm interested to hear how it compares to what is happening at Disneyland.
One of the biggest disappointments of our trip was a clear lack of maintenance attractions are receiving. On Indiana Jones, we didn't get one single ride through where the snake animatronic moved, or where the boulder scene worked at all. Some attractions are in such a rough state, it would be better to have them closed. Pirates reopened after a refurbishment right as we arrived at the resort, and more was broken when it reopened than when it closed. The popularity of the parks post-pandemic, the expectations of guests, and the cutting of non-essential maintenance budgets means rides are operating in a rough state, and it's a shame to see some of our favorite attractions be so badly run. I've had training from Disney. I know my 4 keys. Show comes before efficiency, meaning rides should not be running in this state.
Now, we love the Disney theme parks and we want to continue to go and see value in their resorts. But when will these creeping changes start to make the magic and nostalgia simply not worth it? There were many moments at Disneyland where I was having an amazing time, but then it felt like the company had pulled the rug from beneath my feet and I was smacked back into reality. Some people will argue that these changes are affecting the entire industry, and whilst it's true to some regards, Universal Orlando is what Disneyland and Walt Disney World were just several years ago. It has major on-site benefits, the value proposition is pretty darn good, their systems are simple and easy to understand, and the staff seem to be having a great time, as hearing from employees, they're treated fairly well. So from here on out, the ball's in Disney's court. They are out of excuses. If they begin to falter, then it's nobody's fault but their own. I just hope that they can correct their mistakes before they do too much damage and start to negatively impact the memories and nostalgia that people have for these wonderful places. But what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that the changes are fine? Are we out of line here? Have you visited recently and had problems with things like Genie Plus? Let us know, we're genuinely interested to know what the consensus is out there. From the home of all things theme parks, I'm Dom for ReviewTyme. Thanks for liking, watching, and subscribing.